As the pandemic approaches the 2-year mark, many of us are being tested in ways we had not thought possible. With changing restrictions and cancelled events directly affecting their livelihoods, some local artists are finding ways to reinvent themselves during this time. I reached PAF President Patrick Thompson in Thailand, where he is currently completing a new project.
Hi, Julian.
How are
How are
you?
you? I'm good, thanks. How are you?
It's nice and sunny over there. Yeah, I'm pretty good.
Good.
So, where
That's
are you right now?
I'm south of Bangkok.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Are you there for a while?
Yeah, I'm working on a sculpture. I'm going to be working starting next week. The school's opening today, actually, the college, and I'm working on a sculpture, a bronze sculpture at the university.
Okay.
And so I'll be here until it's done, which I don't know when that's going to be, but I'm hoping a month. That's my goal.
Okay. And
Yeah.
are you still in touch with people at PAF when you're during your absence?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in the loop, and right now everything's relatively quiet, as you can imagine. But yeah, the last board meeting was just before I left, so there's another one scheduled coming up soon, and yeah, everything's. I mean, most of what happened over the last year was over Zoom anyway,
Okay.
so not much has changed. Just I'm in a different place, but even when we were like 10 kilometers apart, we still met this way.
Okay. And
Yeah.
what have you heard about how people are doing right now?
Well, I think the last I know of everybody's individual practice, I think that there's a mixed bag. I think that people are in different stages of their careers, so that COVID will impact them differently. I think some artists are doing okay. I think that I do a lot of public work, which has changed a lot over the last 2 years. And personally, my own stuff has definitely taken different routes just naturally, in terms of how people can gather and the kind of things that are available to work on. Other artists make, people who are predominantly painters, I think are still doing fine. Some people have moved into the realm of teaching more than they did. I think artists, by and large, are quite flexible and malleable when it comes to having curveballs thrown at them.
And
So, yeah.
so has that also affected PAF's programming?
Mm. I think we've reacted well to it. We had a dance and draw as part of it, but Cabinet Curiosities was an exhibition, open house.
Right. Okay. So that's right.
Artist residence in the gym, Doreen Stevens. Yeah. So I think to some degree, things have definitely slowed in terms of the possibilities and the curveballs and the amount of energy that's available. People working on a volunteer basis. We do have one part-time paid staff through a grant, which has allowed us to do things that we wouldn't otherwise be able to do so easily. Lisa Cowan, but I think that definitely COVID has thrown a lot of monkey wrenches into people's like workings of their operations, just because the amount of energy it takes to organize something and to have it shut down and to do it again and to have a family and to have another job. And so yeah, we've all had to do things that maybe we wouldn't have anticipated, take on things we wouldn't have anticipated. So I think that's how artists work.
Okay. So in terms of cancellations and things like that, concretely, how are people?
Yeah, well, the last dance and draw had to be canceled because of the rise in numbers, and so that was a definite, that took a lot of wind out of everyone's sails, because there's so much coordination and planning that goes into it, and then to have it stopped for good reason, but still, especially at a time when people need these things more than ever. I think people look forward to these things, and a lot of it has to do with like you when you have young people and you're trying to prepare them for this brave new world they're living in, and then to like promise them things and have it canceled, and this kind of ebb and flow of what is real. I think it's kind of everyone's learning as we go. It's the first time everyone's faced the uncertainty of how to plan for the unplannable.
Mhm. So you mentioned earlier that it's affected the nature of public art, or the way that that's being done right now. Could you talk more about that?
Sure. I think that the kind of work which, the kind of work that I'm interested in, involved in, which involves people working together from different backgrounds and bringing those people together to work on a tangible product, has definitely changed. I think that I did a mural just in my own practice. I did a mural with a young friend of mine who lives in Cape Dorset. I spent the last 10 years working up in Cape Dorset, and so we couldn't actually do the mural together. He couldn't come down at the time. It was too risky. Sensitive populations and traveling at that time were too risky. So, reacting to what we could do within the parameters that were available to us. So to be able to like collaborate over like online drawing games and develop ideas over the computer. But in the past, it would have been like a lot of preparation time, face to face, planning, design, sketching, and working kind of collaboratively on the fly. So those things I've definitely had to take a back burner. But I think maybe there's a rise in certain ways in terms of public art, because art has had to become more outdoors, I think. So there's a natural sort of a natural progression towards like the democratizing of art, things not being so privatized. So I think, and I can see within like granting bodies that there are more funds available to promote things which are accessible to more people, without having to pay a fee to enter. So access to like public mural funds to produce works which people can appreciate any time of day without having a certain schedule, or works which promote dialogue across generations, or back like socioeconomic backgrounds.
Okay, and on a personal level, can you talk about how the last 2 years have affected you?
Sure. Over the last 2 years, COVID has definitely affected me. I mean, I feel as though the forced internal like dialogue is good for me. I think that I'm interested in how people react to these things, and I find like if we're talking like on a work basis, there's definitely, as an artist, you have like occasional fears of where the future is headed financially, but I try to overcome that with understanding how fortunate we are to live in a place that we do, and to have so many other people going through the same thing, and people being very creative in their problem solving of how to deal with this question of how to live your life. And I made a garden. I worked on a little home studio. I help out at PAF when I can. And I think that it's sort of shone a light on how important it is to be flexible personally, and to not define myself as one kind of artist, but be able to try my hand at anything that comes my way. And it's a really good exercise, I find, for my kind of confidence and mental strength. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. So has it been positive for you, would you say, creatively, or has it been a struggle?
I think it's been positive. You know, I've been sort of taxed in terms of the things that I'm committed to. So that's complicated because, you know, there's so much energy to go around. I mean, I'm fortunate in many ways because I have a good solid base in my career. But so creatively, I think that hardship is really fascinating in terms of like how certain people perceive it and other people really respond negatively to it, and other people are, you know, thrive in it. And um, I think that's inspirational for me. I like working with limited materials, and this whole social dynamic we're now living in is really limited our materials in terms of like working over Zoom. I worked on a mural in the Yukon over Zoom with a group of kids in Mayo, Yukon, over 7 months, and we developed the mural and contacted a local art group, First Nations arts group in Whitehorse, and we became friends. And then we used some VR tools, and so all of these things kind of came out of the blue. And I worked with Carleton University on this, and seeing how Carleton has kind of like quickly sort of adjusted their stance to be able to work in this dynamic to still allow programming to happen and studies to happen. It's really positive, and it's really uplifting to see how people in the educational realm haven't just sort of sat on their hands and waited. They realize the urgency, and so I think that's a good reinforcement for me. Yeah.
Okay, so artistically, it has been an inspiring time for you, I'd say.
Yeah. Sorry for my run-on sentences. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry. No. Yeah. It has been. Yeah. It's been good. It's been a inspiring time, no doubt.
Yeah, okay, great. And so for people who aren't artists, and even people who are artists, it has also been a time of isolation and loneliness and sometimes even depression. How do
Yeah.
you think that art can help people to traverse this crisis and to ultimately feel more well?
I think when you look at places in the world who have suffered through this kind of thing forever, like lack of resources, lack of connection, isolation, distance between people, um, those are really good places to derive inspiration. And I think very amazing, beautiful art comes from isolation. And are you still there? Oh, I thought you looked frozen. You look frozen. Sorry.
I'm
Um,
listening to you attentively.
yeah, no, and I think that there's definitely a direct connection between the inspiration and the depression, because there is time to consider a lot which otherwise has been filled with busyness. And I think that one of the healthy things that I've witnessed from COVID and isolation is people really getting into their craft or getting into their instrument, or finding time to read more. And I think that once you get over the initial hit of the maybe the lack of distractions from our previous lives, if you can find those moments and find a few dollars to give you that freedom, you can then like get into better relationships with your kids through play and fun, and that can be art, that can be games, that can be sewing stuff. I think one cool thing that we did before, like at the first little while of COVID, was through sorry, my morning brain. Is this all going to be on LePage Media? Are you editing? But they're like the kind of opportunities that lay in this strange time in history are amazing. And I think that, like, when you look at all the different kind of cool problem solving opportunities that people have stumbled upon, I think that that's where art really like shines a light back on us and say and gives us a chance to say, oh, you know, like I remember what it was to be a kid. Like maybe this isn't so bad. Maybe we need to play more. Maybe we need to like get on our knees and play, hang out with our kids. I feel like our municipality is particularly fortunate based on the sort of like wide-ranging population that exists and the kind of environment we live in. We're reminded on a daily basis of how beautiful a world we live in. We have clean water, we have nature at our doorstep, we have fresh air, and I think that we have a lot of art that lives in our area, and that's a testament to all of that beauty and all of that nature sort of reminding us on a daily basis. It's kind of it's a magnet for artists, but it's also an inspiration for people to make and to live and to express themselves.
So on that note, how has PAF managed to maintain those connections with community despite the restrictions, and in fact now the intensifying restrictions? Have you had to rethink how to engage with people?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we have, like I said, we have hired on a part-time basis somebody who is able to put a dedicated amount of time towards programming, planning, and organizing. And in doing that, the Cabinet of Curiosities event happened. We have applied for grants to allow us to do projects within the community. There was a COVID art work project that happened around the area, which were murals, which sort of beautified corners of the municipality. Dance and draw continued to happen. Unfortunately, our gym, which is a really amazing asset, you know, it's a complicated time to have people indoors in the wintertime. In the summer, the outdoors of PAF was activated quite often. And I think increasingly as time goes on, like I'm new at PAF in the president's role, but that is definitely the goal, is to be able to activate the outdoor space. We're working on how to make the building more useful to more people, micro grants to be able to turn that, like we're trying to work towards better acoustics. So we have finances in place to work on better acoustics. And Art Beyond Borders is now in the works. So Art Beyond Borders, I don't know if you'd heard about Art Beyond Borders, but it's yeah.
Sounds familiar, yeah, but go ahead.
Yeah. So Art Beyond Borders is a project which has identified 3 local artists working within the municipality and 3 artists working within Quebec to collaborate on projects of their choice that will be presented at PAF and then presented within the province. So that's a project that we are producing, and I think that's really interesting, is ways to sort of highlight this idea, maybe not in a kind of like mass La Pêche community gathering sense, but like small illustrations of this idea of collaboration across distances. So we're doing as much as we can at the moment to be able to offer things, and we're definitely on the track of doing more. I think that most of our mandate at the moment is finding funds to be able to secure mental space and energy to be able to do more of that. And like, that's my work. My work in Cape Dorset and Kingite Nunavut was socially engaged work involving people of all different ages working together on big projects. That's what I'm interested in, and that's what I'd like to see PAF do more of. I'm here because of this project, and also I needed a bit of a break. There's a lot of work to do, a lot of these things, and also my personal work. But I feel like my energy is good, and I'm ready to, once what I'm doing here is done, I'll definitely be jumping back in with everyone at PAF. So yeah.
Okay, great. And are there ways that the community can better support the artists at PAF and in the larger community, in your opinion? Is there in this moment?
Oh, definitely. I mean, PAF there's so much opportunity within the building, within the area around the building, using the building as a springboard, using the organization as a springboard. If people have ideas that they want to bounce off the board, things that they feel would be, that don't really necessarily fall within the realm of art. I think that, the conversation around art can sometimes be a little bit alienating and sort of strangely distant from people's everyday language. But I think that the exciting thing about the kind of art that I see, which is really exciting all around the world, really doesn't have a frame or isn't presented in a white cube or on a plinth. It's things that are happening in people's lives on day-to-day basis. So the municipality and the population need to know that this is, we have a gym, we have a kitchen. In the future, we'll have more space, and we're working at the moment with a University of UC Berkeley architecture student who's doing his master's on PAF, looking at PAF as a space that could grow in incremental ways, just in a conceptual phase right now, to think about how it could be the most useful to the community. So if the community is interested in, like guiding this idea, or, planting seeds within that sort of nest at the moment. Like right now, we're growing it, and I can share that with you. The link that you could share, which would be the link to the Miro, which is an online mind mapping tool that we've built around this kind of ecosystem of what we're looking at, what PAF can be, looking at other socially engaged art spaces around the world, in all different socioeconomic locations. How do people do things in the most simple way possible? How do people do it with all the money in the world? And so how do you become the most effective art space? And not just capital A art, but public space, which produces opportunities for community gathering, for health, for food, for sport. I think it can be anything. And there's so many amazing minds in the area. I feel like we, as the population grows, we need more and more places to gather to share these ideas and to potentially become this amazing middle of the road spot between Ottawa and Kitigan-Zibi. We're kind of in the dead center. We're right on the river. We have all these amazing assets. But what we need is the community's engagement and involvement in the steering of what the organization can become. So I'll lend an email, which is a place where people can share ideas. I know that's a long-winded answer of how people can get involved, but I would say that if people are interested in lending a hand in steering our region into a place that the people are in charge of, in terms of the kind of programming that's available, education that's available for young people, how PAF can step in where public school system fails, how PAF can step in where the distance to Ottawa is too great. Those kind of dreams are very real in terms of giving an opportunity to create a ceramic studio, to do a maker space is a kind of like a classic example of this. And the government of Quebec talks a lot about innovation hubs, and I feel that PAF really presents a cool opportunity to really work towards redefining what innovation can be, and not just a place where artists are working in their studios, but 50% of PAF being a place that can, right now the building is artist studios, a gymnasium, a kitchen, but we also have a wing of the building which is kind of storage for stuff from, I think, the hospital. There's like furniture in the building. It's a very poorly used space, and so we're working towards, hopefully in time, moving that stuff along to another grateful home, and turning that other space into something which is more of a community space. So what could that place be? We've chatted about getting kilns. We need better electricity into the building. We have some structural things we need to deal with, but for the most part, that space presents an amazing opportunity as a gathering space for, what Farleton used to be, which was a place where people came for pancake breakfast, played softball, played hockey, hung out, had fun together. And from the kind of the rumors of the history of Farleton, which I know nothing about, I don't remember coming up to Farleton as a kid from Chelsea, but I think, like, as far back, people will definitely correct me, but there was, many houses in that area and quite a big population. You can see by the kind of remnants of what happened there that there was activity, and there was lots of laughs that happened around the school. And judging by the size of that graveyard, it's a booming area, and farmers like to party.
Okay. All right. Well, on that note, thanks very much, Patrick. Appreciate it. So we'll see you when you get back to town.
Okay, for sure. Yeah, that'd be great.